What's up, my little movers and shakers? Coming to you live here from the rooftop. Ooh, you got saw some foam there on the cup. Not the most aesthetically appealing, but very real, very true. Mmm, amazing. Well, we've got a Wednesday. We've got a Mercury day at our fingertips today. And I'm so excited. I've got some real bangers here that I can't wait to crack into with you and share the goods. So I want to like start this by saying a lot of the time I'm really just talking to myself. I mean, I think that's kind of obvious. Maybe it's not. Sometimes the most obvious things that we know, are not obvious to others. Anywho, and a lot of the time I don't know who I'm talking to or who's here until you pipe up and let me know that you kind of kicked it with me and that, you're vibing. But otherwise, I don't know. So that's an interesting thing. And so what that means for me is that I've really got to enjoy it. I've really got to be in it for myself. And I think that's true for all of us in what we do. We are the ones that are gonna be with ourselves, be beside ourselves, and be there along the process. And so it's really important that we are our own audience as well. And I think a lot of the time we externalize that expectation. We want it to be until we have an active and engaged audience. Well, I'm not going to do the thing because then it's not good until it's recognized. But like, what if you gave yourself full recognition, acceptance, cheer, support, and we're like, I'm my best audience actually. I do this shit for me. And if it picks up steam, if it is of support or service or value to others, that's great. That's amazing. Love that for all of us. But essentially, my practice here is to do it because I feel that internal, push and call and propelling energy moving forward, which has said to me, there is no other way but then to do this thing, because it actually takes a lot more energy to deny the thing that you're feeling most called to do. I've been thinking about fear as it's like the main kind of thing as to why we're not fully embracing, who we are or sharing from the depth of our soul and really kind of showing up how we want to. And you know what I have to say to fear today? Just a very direct and loving statement, which is that I fear living in fear more than fear itself. Like the stakes are too high, like I'd rather be like, all right, fear, let's ride. Like we're doing this thing again because we're being consistent and showing up for our craft every day. So I'm okay with a little bit of fear. Like I'm like, yeah, okay, right on. You're a part of the spectacle. But me not saying like, come in the car, let's ride, and actually being like, no. I just rather like, and no one would choose that. But the thing is, the choice of like living uncomfortably and making bold and brave strides and being consistent and committed to the craft every day is what is knocking on your door. Only you know that to be true. But if you're listening to this, you're like, Christa, I'm vibing. I know what you're saying. It's happening for me too. What are the alternatives? There are no alternatives. It's time. Why else? When else? Who else? It's got to be you. It's got to be through you, by you, and also for you. You need to be on the benefiting edge side, whatever, of your own miraculous creativity and being, because it's alive and you're alive and it's an energetic match. So when you're in a state of active denial of it, then it's going to be very uncomfortable, very stressful, not cool at all. So it's like, at what point does that become the least, okay, well, then I'm not choosing that actually. I guess fear is going to ride shotgun for a little bit. So be it. There is going to be a time of like confusion and switching gears, and that's a process. And so it's like, can our goal, throughout our life and in relationship with our creativity and our gifts and our, what it is that we're here to, how we're here to show up, grow, experience love, all of that goodness. Can it be more about the process and the in-between and doing things like totally beautifully and perfectly that are super true to you, rather than some like goalpost itself? Because those goalpost moments do happen, obviously, otherwise there wouldn't be a game. But what else happens in that game 90% of the time, if not more? Obviously more. No one's striking gold the whole time. So let the process become your gold, and the goalpost is also a part of the game, but it's not the main thing. It can't be the main thing. Your main thing is falling in love with your process and then doing it, and also being like for a while in that like awkward, it's like when you're growing your hair out, like duh, like you're just gonna have to like, don't let that awkward inevitable phase prevent you from doing that cut in the first place. You got to have that cut. Your soul came into this life to experience that haircut. So like, don't worry, it's going to be awkward. Obviously, we all experience awkwardness. It's a part of the show. It's a part of the gig, so let our goal be presence. Let our goal and our greatest gold be presence. Because that's what we're with and beside and doing majority of the time. Yeah. Yeah, there's awkward hair. One time I did the old shaveroonski on this side here. I dived for many years, scuba dive, and always had dreads, natty situation. It's like, that'd be nice little breeze on that little patch of my head there. And the growing out was like, is it worth it? And I'm like, yeah, you know what? We decide that it's worth it or not, So enjoy the present. So like, you're like, what am I going to do this awkward patch today? Figure it out and then live your day. It's going to be there. It's fine. It's totally fine. It's just the moment. It's just a moment. Great. Perfect. Okay. So, yeah, I was like, oh, the key is to not overthink it. And the goal is presence. Yeah. Don't overthink it. Everything's going to grow, shift, change, move, do a new dance. That's all good. But it's like not buying the plant now because you're like focused on it outgrowing that pot and not being certain if you're going to have space for it. And then what if I don't have the money to get a new pot? What if this just buy the plant. Do it now. This is the moment that's going to be one of those micro details that shape the rest of your existence, but make that choice in the present moment. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Okay? Good. The first business name I had was Fetch and Flourish. Yes, no one got it except for me. That's fine. I've gone through many name changes. Again, you learn, you experience. It's all a part of the fun, right? Fetch and Flourish. So Flourish, we know, and it did end up becoming Flourish Holistics because, there's a certain point where people need to get it, again. But it started with what made most sense to me, and I love that. I just love it. But the Fetch, so the Fetch is the distance traveled between one wave to the next. And I love to consider, that's the space between. It's the space between our thoughts, the peak moments, the low moments. Majority of our life is in the Fetch. And then there are those, flourish moments, obviously, and that's what we're kind of putting more emphasis on. It's what we like the most. It's when we see the reward. We actually, oh, there it is, Yeah, so fetch and flourish. It's the ebb and the flow. It's both and, Yes. So what are we saying? The other day, a friend of mine, he said, how's it going? I said, I'm just in love with my life. Everything's going super groovy. I'm having a time, feeling incredibly grateful, feeling really inspired in my creative flow every day, showing up for the practice. And he said, yeah, and not in an aggro way. He was like, yeah, what's that taking you? Like, what are you putting in every day on the clock kind of thing, just for shits, like, why not answer that question? And I was like, you know what, a good few hours, like 3 to 4 hours kind of thing, sometimes more. And I'm like, you know what, ultimately, the answer to that question is whatever it takes to tip the scale. That's really at this point what it is. And in my numerology, in the old chart there, it says that me in my like best express is to spend 50% of my time in creativity. I mean, not that everything else that I would do or engage or have a client or be showing up for something else isn't creative as well. It's just a natural extension. But like me in my solitude, I'm a hermit. Dope. Also I'm like very socially outward, and I get so much of my fuel from those connections and experiences, and then I take them and I go like a little I don't know, it was like a half motorboat, half squirrel situation. But I go, oh yes, this is great. And then I create it, and then I share it. I put it out there. So yeah, 3 or 4 hours a day kind of thing is what's true for me right now. And I just see that dialing up, honestly, because the for me, what success is to be truly present and in flow with having my entire life be a masterpiece, a creative work in progress. Like if it ain't that way, it ain't for me, kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, it's like, what are we like when are we first of all, are you scheduling a little time for your creativity so that it can grow and you can foster it? Yes, great. If so, how much? Okay, next question, is that working? Are you getting the results that you want? Amazing. Not so much? Well, up the ante, whatever it takes to tip the scale. Make those micro movements, decisions, choices every single day that'll push the needle forward. And it's really about the experience of doing it and being in it, creating that for yourself, and then having that time, that finite time, whatever in between, be as limitless as possible, because it's what happens to your brain and what happens to the body is at an ultimate state of relaxation and flow. So we got to find out what that is if we don't already know it. 4 years ago, this memory came into my mind. I'm very good at dates. I remember things like as sharp as a tack. I don't know why. And I like to have a yearly astro read. And the first one that I did was 4 years ago. And I remember at one point she asked me, do you know what your medicine is? And I looked at myself, which is nice. That's a good start. And I looked down at my hands. I was doing body work and energy work. I had a practice at that time. I said, I was thinking hands, heart, like that's the vibe. And I was like, my hands, my heart, and she's like, it's your words, period. It's your words. That's it. And you'll have a multitude of expression of those words, but the most impactful one is your spoken word, your voice, like your energy and vibration behind the words. That's your medicine. And I was like, oh, cool. I'll skirt around that for the next few years. But, all good, right? Like, I know that I feel my most true self when I'm like, it's speaking and in flow. When I was on the podcast with Meg, we were so beautiful, such a beautiful team there. I loved that. I love Meg so much. And, I was like, oh, wow, listening is so good. You're so good at it, kind of thing. And she's like, that's my job. Like, that's what I do. And I was like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, speaking is my job. It's what I do. Like, I know that, and that's what happened Well, now I'm really taking you on a journey. Here we go. Which is that my bodywork practice naturally evolved into more of a conversational practice. And I was like, well, why am I renting this space? What am I doing? I can take this on the road. I can do whatever. And yeah, I gave out that practice space and hit the road. That's what happened. That's literally what happened. So yeah, my words are my medicine. And what's yours? I would like to know. Thank you. And if you don't know, you ought to know. Let's find out. Let's find out right now. Okie doke, dokie doke. Oh, here's a fun one. Our relationship to timing. It's usually wrong, isn't it? Like most of the time it is wrong because our experience is not linear, although we're running on a linear clock, which is like awkward, you know? And so when we're setting ourselves up for the year ahead, for, goals, for like, direction, focus, all that stuff, we usually like, obviously to keep ourselves organized is put a time on it. And we're I don't know, we're not always right about it. Like in was it yesterday? It was the last rooftop. And I shared with you all the things that I wanted at the start of 2019. It's coming up 4 years ago. I wanted those things right then, right there, right now. They didn't happen. Yeah. So what would happen is if we're starting to tap into the essence of what we're desiring and building on that vibe every day in like a micro, super enjoyable way. Oh my gosh, how much fun would we actually be having in the present moment if we were like creating the essence of it, releasing the timeline from it? Wouldn't that be pretty neat? Just to take the old timeroo right out of the equation. Expectation regarding time, be gone. Because everything that you would want to have in that future timeline, first of all, you might be like super cautious. So you might be saying, oh, that won't happen until, but like maybe it can happen tomorrow actually. And then obviously the opposite of that is being like, oh my God, it's going to happen tomorrow. And then it doesn't, but then you've decided to happen tomorrow and you're like, you put a stronghold on that and then it doesn't, then you're disappointed, but you don't need to be experiencing that disappointment. You could actually be super jazzed because the essence of what you're desiring is available for you actually right now in this moment. So like, let's let go of the old timeline rope. Adios. I don't know. It's a bit far out, but I'm with it, And again, I love numerology and I'm not like really a goal setter. Again, the goal is to be present. But he was like 3 manis for next year because the universe is going to be on a powered move to like provide all of that for you. But, you're the lead in the video game, which means like you're going to need to go out there and open those doors and like figure shit out and find out. Otherwise, you're just sitting in the waiting room of your life and that's your prerogative. But if you want to like go down, the universe is going to double down on that shit. So I was like, all right, I'll check a couple manis for next year. Just like, again, not overthinking it. And I wrote those 3 things down. And I was like, that's cool. They might change. Probably not. There's one thing that I really do not would like to change, which is I want to be in love. Yeah, I'd like to start a family as well. So that's a big one. That feels phony for me to say because for so long, my experience has been like hyper independent. First, that was like unhealed aspects, and then it became healed, and now I'm vibing out. But that's a big one for me. So here, I've said it here out loud first, maybe for the first time. If you're here, thanks for sharing that moment with me. Right. Again, but releasing the timeline of it. But that's what I'm like going to be building my vibration towards, amping myself up, loving myself, providing all that adoration, cherishing oneself so that I'll be open, ready to receive when that timeline appears, you know? So I'm just saying I'm bringing that closer into my vortex, and let's vibe with that. Yeah. Well, I've got a lot more, but I feel like I'm really going off on one. So I might just wrap it up, you know, and we'll visit again tomorrow. How about it? So much love to you, my loves, and let's do it again. Let's keep it going.